So if you're considering whether or not to divorce, I think it's important, first of all, to consider if you're emotionally ready for a divorce. I've once had a client where in our first meeting, when she came to me, she was so seriously, emotionally distraught that she was all over the place when she was explaining things to me. And I just could not imagine at that time how it was that she could endure a long and tedious divorce proceedings, because the divorce itself is a very emotionally taxing process. So you must be emotionally strong enough to handle it in the first place. So that's number one. Number two, you need to think about what it is your plans are for the future. So that includes yourself and also for your children. For instance, think about where it is you want to live. Do you want to stay where you're living, or you want to move out to another accommodation so that you don't need to be sharing the same roof with your spouse? Also consider the children. Would they be staying with you, or would they be staying with your spouse? In either cases, you'll have to think about their visiting and access arrangements so that they can spend equal amount of time with both parents. So that's number two. Number three would be the question of legal representation. For that question, you need to consider if you have the financial resource to hire a divorce lawyer. If you do have the financial resources, then obviously it would be a good idea that you hire a divorce lawyer to help you go through that process. It's always best to have legal advice and to have someone take the stress off your shoulders by handling the process through qualified individuals. But if you don't have the financial resources, it's also okay. You can do a divorce procedure entirely by yourself. There are resources on the government website where you can download templates, so you can actually draft and file the divorce papers yourself without having to spend costly sums engaging a divorce lawyer. However, if you're considering a divorce, I still think it's important that you at least consult an expert to understand what your rights and entitlements are before you actually take the plunge. Finally, I think a question that you must consider is whether or not divorce is the only option. In some cases, it's not. For instance, maybe it's a good idea if you separate with your spouse for a little while and see if divorce is really the only step you can take forward. Or you may even consider marriage counseling and see if you can reconcile with your spouse instead of going through a divorce.